No real surprises so far.
Interesting to see the Rengar pick. Rengar hasn't really been at the top of the tier in terms of pick rates at the moment, so that'll have to be interesting.
Yeah,
he's
not the top of the. He's no like Lee Sin or Jarvan, but of course with Jarvan and Rek'Sai taken off the board, Rengar's always been kind of that not really an S tier jungler, more of an A tier jungler, where if all the really top junglers are picked or banned away, Rengar's a good fallback. So, we'll see Brinks playing that, and
we're gonna see the Kalani bot lane combo, hoping to bring their calamity that lane. Jax is going to be locked in for the top lane now. That is an interesting pick. I'll be interested to see if potentially the Rengar is actually in the top lane and Jax may potentially be in on towards that jungle, but we'll have to wait and see. Ari locked in, of course, with the changes on patch 5.2. Kassadin and Malphite now the next pickup. There is a lot of wombo combo coming in here for a red side.
Yeah, so champion select going very, very quickly. You did mention the Jax Rengar potential swap. We'll have to see where that goes. And yeah, I'm just trying to analyze these champions, but they're going so quickly, and I don't think those are going to be our picks. But interesting to see Kalista. I haven't seen much Kalista at all, really, in competitive League of Legends. So I'm interested to see how Springies can go on that Kalista pick, and whether that Annie will be pairing as a support or in the mid lane. A few flex picks on our red side, so we'll have to see with the Vi lock-in. So we will see the Annie support and the Kassadin mid and Malphite top. So that kind of good. I do like that they had a couple of flex champions. They really cemented it with that last pick Vi before they revealed where everyone was going.
I know. So once again, we're just going to go over quickly what we already have discussed, but we obviously started up with some sound issues, so barring that, hopefully we'll be able to kick this all off and get it going without any worries whatsoever. My name is Ranconius. I'm going to be your host for this evening. Joining me is the lovely Invisi on our blue side. Our team is going to be the Legacy of L Ford on the red side. 5 kids, 1 funky dream. Runners up from last season's grand final. So we'll have to see how they perform this season. They'll be out for revenge, you have to say, Invisi.
Oh, most definitely. And I'm a bit worried for the Legacy of L Ford here. They've definitely got their work cut out for them, but hopefully they can step up to the challenge, and I'm sure they're going to be able to have a fairly decent contest.
Well, picks now locked in. It's going to be that Jax in towards the top lane. We weren't really sure what we were going to be seeing, and Brinks is going to be picking up that Rengar in towards the jungle. Now over onto our less sure side, it's obviously going to be Yen on the Malphite in the top lane, Soth on Vi in towards the jungle, Eric on Kassadin in the mid lane. Interesting pickup, Kassadin in that mid lane, but we'll have to come back to that one. And finally, the pick Pieman is going to be rounding out on Annie support with Springies on Kalista. So interesting to see Kassadin back in towards the mid lane.
Yeah, so we have seen him in mostly the top lane, but traditionally a mid laner, and a fairly decent matchup into Ari. Ari with that true damage will do decently against Kassadin. I feel like, I'm not sure how that matchup goes. It's kind of even, but it'll be a matter of, can Ostrich really punish Kassadin in those early levels, because of course Kassadin notorious for a weak laning phase, particularly in that mid lane. So it'll be up to Ostrich on that Ari to really punish that pre-6 and get that snowball on.
Well, they've given him the lane that'll get him to 6 the fastest. But we'll have to find out, as you said, whether it'll make some difference. Rengar can potentially gank at level 3 straight into that mid lane, even level 2, and just get a first blood straight off the bat on towards Eric. See if that one comes down. Vi, not known for her heavy pre-6 ganking. Can, of course, come in as well, but Ari is going to be more than safe. And up towards the top lane, a little bit of a counter matchup, but Jax is still going to become that late game Jax. And Yen on that Malphite, he's going to be looking for the wombo combo. Where do you see these teams really starting to throw it all around?
Well, in the late game, I definitely give it to the Legacy of L Ford. That team, Rengar, Jax, such strong late game champions, and Caitlyn fairly good in the late game as well. And just Jax, it's just the Jax pick really. Jax is just such a late game beast, and while Vipers they do have a fair amount of late game in themselves. I'm not sure whether they'll be able to handle that Jax. They do potentially have the late game for it, so I'm really not sure. I think, like I said, a little bit of a late game edge to the Legacy of L4, but in the early game, I do think that 5 Kids, 1 Funky Dream, they definitely have the chance to snowball this game. They do have fairly good lane matchups. And if they can pull ahead, they can definitely take this game quite easily in the early to mid game.
I just think it's quite interesting to note the fact that Ostrich opted for Ari over somebody like an Orianna with 2-point and click initiates for a ball. Like, we'll have to. I'm not convinced by the Ari pick.
Well, I think this is mostly because of the Ari changes in patch 5.2. She's become a very, very strong champion. In fact, I believe she has the highest win rate in the game in solo queue. You know, just that movement speed on her orb of option, it's really powerful, and it gives her an escape tool pre-6, which is really underestimated. Just having, often Ari is a very immobile champion when her ult's down. That's pretty much the window you have to use to punish her. And having that movement speed, it just gives her another option for mobility, getting in and out of fights, getting in and out of lane, moving up and down, and reacting to jungle ganks from either side. She's just really, really strong on this patch.
Something we certainly haven't talked about is the Blitzcrank pickup and the potential actually for him to start the fights for the opposition because, well, Malphite, Cassidy, you hook both of them in, they're ready to brawl. Annie, you do the exact same and she's going to want to go. And Vi's right there, so Blitzcrank rounding out the composition as well for the guys on the Legacy of L4. I'm not convinced by that one either.
Yeah, quite possibly. Of course, we do have the possibility of him hooking in Springies, but you know, it's really, if you hook anyone other than Malphite, Catsko and Yan, it's still good because while they do want to be getting into the fight, you know, Vi, Cassidy, Annie, they really want to be getting into the fight with their abilities. They don't want to be getting into the fight with a Blitzcrank hook. Malphite, of course, he's tanky enough to not really care about being hooked into a team. He'll just get hooked and immediately press R and be like, hey, I'm here now. But I feel as though the hook, like you mentioned, it could go awry if he does hook the wrong target. But I think hooking a usual initiator like a Vi or a Cassidy, who, let's be honest, they don't often build that tanky. They often build like an off tank with a lot of damage. So, you know, if you can hook them and get a bit of crowd control before they can get their abilities off, you'll still get a good amount of damage in and a good initiate to a team fight there. So Blitzcrank, we'll have to see how that performs and whether Huddy can land those hooks. But I'm not as worried as you are.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I guess that's why you're the analytical caster and I'm just here for the loud shouty bit. Anyway, we're just about to load on the Rift. All 10 heroes are at 100%. And welcome to Summoner's Rift. For the first time this game, going to be a best-of-3 series. Blue side, of course. Once again, let's go over our players and the champions that are going to be on for the Legacy of L4. It's going to be CJ Hectox up in the top lane playing Jax. II Brinks on the jungle Rengar. X-Ostrich V in the mid lane Ari. Fort E2 is going to be playing that Caitlyn towards the bottom lane, and his partner in crime will be Huddy San on the Blitzcrank over towards their opposition. 5 Kids, 1 Dream? I believe it was.
5 Kids, 1
funky dream. 1 funky dream.
Their dream's very, very funky. That's important.
Yeah, very important. It's going to be Catsko Nyan on the Malphite. Hopefully a rock-solid performance from him in the top lane. Instead of Sloth, with the Assault and Battery coming hammering out of the jungle on the Vi. Eric with the Void character himself, Cassidy in the mid lane. Springies, not Springies. And Callista in towards the bottom lane.
Oh, right.
And his... Yeah.
I just misread. I thought there was an R.
So did I. Well, you said it, then I misread it. But anyway, we'll round this one out. The pick Pieman is going to be his fiery laning partner, the Annie. And, well, Callista definitely opting, I think, for the right decision. Throw that blood spear on towards pick Pieman's Annie. And a little bit of invade coming out.
42's in a little bit of trouble.
Oh, there it is. The stun coming out from the Incinerate from Pick Pieman. Oh, we'll go that 90 caliber net.
Ooh.
Q across the wall from Sin of Sloth means that he won't start the jungle all that well. They're looking for that kill. Don't quite find it. And 42 is still alive. Annie is keeping him here, though. Little bit of early aggression. Wanted to layer that one down.
I'm very surprised how that level one played out from both sides. I was expecting the legacy of Elf Ford with that Blitzcrank pick to really go for those early invades, but it ended up being 5 Kids, 1 Funky Dream going for that early invade, so really the opposite of what I was expecting, but fortunately for 42, it didn't pay off for them. Sin of Sloth just missing that Q, of course he was in the brush, so it wasn't sighted, so unfortunately did miss it. You'd have to think if that Q landed, that would have been first blood. So a decent risk to take, unfortunately doesn't quite pay off for 5 Kids, 1 Funky Dream.
And this is obviously going to put the bot lane in a small advantage. They get to lane first, they don't lose any XP whatsoever. 1 creep lost for 42, and that's going to be important. Level 2 from a Callista, and Annie can be brutally punishing when you Blitzcrank suddenly got his rocket grab.
Yeah, so it's going to be very hard for us been used to be hooked in this lane. The Martial Poise just so potent and just constantly repositioning it around the lane, and Huddy San really going to have to be on with those Mad Life prediction skills if he wants to get a hook in.
Well, the focus potentially could be going on towards Annie instead. Up the top lane, there'll be a little bit of trading out with backdoors. But you feel like Pick Pieman might be the focus instead?
Most likely, yeah. So we mentioned Callista with that Martial Poise, able to dash around the lane. Not got anything like that. Pretty much a sitting duck if he doesn't hide behind those minions. So we'll have to see whether he wants to pick up some early mobility boosts. Often Annie supports do like to do that, or just supports in general, and that will help him dodge out a little bit more. But you know, a fair amount of harass going down. Those Piltover Peacemakers, of course, do a fair amount of damage in the early levels.
Yep, absolutely. Up towards the top lane, Malphite's the one that's taking the early CS lead. Kind of expected in that on towards that lane. Mid lane though, Cassidy is keeping up in CS. He's 100% level. Charm will go out. Eric is going to take a little bit of damage, but you have to remember that he does have that Crystalline Flask. He's the one looking to take the fight early. Rocket grab in the bottom lane. So close. He almost could have been first blood if that one had connected.
Yeah, it was fairly close. Able to quickly hop out of the way. Was being used there. But
42, you need to be careful, and he has the stun primed. No ignite as well. Not a huge deal of kill pressure. They're going to be relying on potentially Cassidy to come down to that one early on.
well, of course, Cassidy really not a roaming champion until he hits that level 6. It really is that Rift Walk that makes his gank so potent. But then Sloth is looking to go into this top lane potentially, looking for an early tower dive on this Jax.
Yep, level 3 buy, here it comes. Vault Breaker getting charged up, will connect on towards Hex, and there it is. The overcharged gauntlets of the Piltover Enforcer. Going to pick that one up. First blood going in favor of 5 kids, 1 funky dream.
Yeah, so well played gank. He just managed to get out. Of course, the tower doing quite a lot of damage at only level 3, so really have to respect that tower damage in the early levels, but knew that he could just bypass the tower, and of course, Jax was low enough to just be bursted down during the duration of that crowd control from the Vault Breaker. So well played, first blood there, and good coordination as well from 5 kids, 1 funky dream.
Absolutely, mid lanes hitting at level 5. Base already forced out from the side of Ostrich. Picked himself up an amplifying time and some boots, trying to put some harass down. Cassidy opting to go for the Rod of Ages route, and potentially the best one in your mind, Invisi?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. A Rod of Ages is a very good item on Cassidy. He really does scale off mana quite well. Because not only does his ult have a very, very high mana cost as it scales up, but the damage on his ultimate also scales off mana, which a lot of people don't realize. So the more mana he has, the more damage he does. We'll have to wait and see. But Rengar coming into this top lane.
Absolutely, and Hector's is already trading. There's another lead strike. He has to be careful though, that ground slam could kill him. The W coming out, and that will be Rengar picking up the kill mid lane though. Eric was looking for a little bit of trade. Hook on towards Pieman in the bottom lane. Flashes out, takes a turret shot. The heal force from Springies as well was what kept him so healthy. I was wondering there for a second.
Yeah,
That's-
I was wondering what happened there as well.
Yeah,
So-
looked like he kind of just dodged the tower shot, but no, it's all Spingies. Vi's down towards this bottom lane. We could see a second turret